entitled Critical Partnerships for Accelerating Your Simulation Product Strategy. So hopefully you guys are excited as we are dedicated to join NVIDIA's GTC 21. Plenty of content. It just grows year over year, reaching a worldwide audience. So we're very excited, and hopefully you have a chance to check the Jensen's keynote. Always full of great information. Obviously, latest and greatest announcements, and it's always fun to see where he's going to film it. Yeah, it's a nice view of his kitchen, and get to know him on a personal level. But yeah, hope you have a chance to catch that presentation. So I'm James Shields with Dedicated Computing, and I'm joined today by John Burie, who is our Senior Product Manager for our training simulation market.
Good day, everybody. I hope you had a chance to enjoy the keynote and some of the new technology that NVIDIA is bringing to market. Looking forward to talking with you today about how we can help you make that technology a reality in your products.
And with that, the products that we support for the OEMs worldwide, across the 40 years that Dedicated has been doing this, our mission statement is powering the world's most important devices. From healthcare with surgery and treatment, diagnosis and imaging, patient monitoring and treatment. In life sciences, obviously something very important today with the pandemic and drug development, and genomics, proteomics, bioinformatics, and scientific modeling has all been very important and something that Dedicated is proud to be part of. Other markets such as industrial automation, and also in training and simulation, which we're going to talk about today, in the military, government, and commercial markets. Training pilots, making sure they have the latest and greatest access to real world, where simulation meets the real world, and we want to make that as close to reality as possible. Those are the important devices that Dedicated is proud to partner with many of the OEMs around the world. So the one constant in this world, we can all agree, is change. And with that, as you guys are doing your product development, there's 4 questions we want to make sure you guys are asking your teams. The first one, with the complexity of software, the fast-moving world of hardware, everyone's in their lanes doing their development. But have you asked your leaders, is your software and hardware teams aligned? Because as you're releasing products and trying to stay on schedule and meet the market you're going after, sometimes you need to look at that and make sure that the alignment's there, and do you have a connection on the product strategy? And we're going to talk about that more. And with that, the ecosystems that are out there and the partnerships. Here at Dedicated Computing, we're proud to partner with our OEMs to be that link between the software, hardware, and product definition and production, as well as field service support. So we're going to talk more about that as well. And we all know about COVID-19, the challenges of last year, the impact that it had on us personally, but from our product strategy and development, deployment, and servicing, the challenge and the logistics of that reached the world vast as well as local. So really, you need to ask yourself, are you up for those types of challenges? Were you prepared, and are you prepared for the next challenge? Because there's post COVID-19, there will be more challenges. And probably one of the most important aspects of your product is the life cycle. You plan to reach a market with a certain amount of lifespan, and working with an ecosystem partner and an ODM to understand how to make sure that your product is available, because the amount of time it takes you to for your concept, development, testing, certification, and fielding, usually by the time that it comes to the field, you already have life cycle management. End of life is a reality, especially with the constraints in our suppliers and the logistics. So then you also have, once your product is out in the field, you have change management. So working with a partner that is an expert in that, has 40+ years of experience doing that, as well as the relationships with all the different suppliers and logistics to make sure that we can handle that, is something that we're going to go on more specifically around the training and simulation market. So we're going to talk about that today. So again, you as your OEM partner, we know you have multiple product lines with their own challenges and complexity. And then within one product line, you have multiple components, multiple suppliers, and all the issues that come into that. The management of that, just even to set those up, is sometimes a challenge. You don't have those relationships. And so working with a partner that already has those relationships, already has the know-how and the experience to manage that, as well as the expanded ecosystem beyond just the supply chain, but around marketing, engineering, design, testing, certification. What we're talking about today is a single ODM partner that can handle all those different aspects. At Dedicated Computing, we have over 40 years of market expertise across multiple markets, and we look for the similarities that those challenges that have been identified and met. We look to expand that and use that expertise to engage with other OEM partners to solve those same challenges. And again, lifecycle management, probably one of the toughest things that most of you deal with in your product strategy and your product development and field servicing. So at Dedicated Computing, we have a collaborative process. You're working with a single ODM, but you're working with an entire team, from engineering, quality, marketing, sales, logistics, service. So what we do is we make sure our experts are talking to your experts, and that way we're just an extension of your team as a value-added resource. And around engineering design, we design our own products, and all the aspects we've talked about with your products is the same that we see, but then we also work with you for any customization that you need. So having a standard product that's already developed and tested and certified with worldwide certifications reduces your time to market and gets you to revenue much faster. But it also, we've knocked down some of those challenges in the product development. But there's still plenty of customization that we want to work with your teams to identify your specific value and IP. And, worldwide certification management, that's a constant changing, moving target. But there's also all the complexity and the testing to make sure that the product is certifiable. We make sure that we are an expert in that as well. And quality and reliability, we hold ourselves to standards of quality and reliability, and we work with you. As you have high standards. We work with medical companies, defense companies, ISO 9001, 13485, 60601. So we know the complexity that your products are doing. So we make sure that we have the quality, the steps, the processes in place to make sure that it is 100% reliable. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to John, and he's going to go more specifically into the products around the simulation.
Thank you, James. Appreciate that. Yeah, no shortage of things to be concerned about as you bring product to market. I'm sure if you've been bringing these type of technologies that NVIDIA is so great at bringing to the market, learning how to leverage those for different applications and determining the best way to leverage those capabilities to address very specific market niche issues and challenges is what you do well, and it's why you're in business. So how do I take that technology and put it into an engineer's hand is step one. Step two is, once we know what we're going to do with it, how do we apply it and how do we bring that to market? And one of the reasons we wanted to talk about simulation product architectures today is it really gives a good example of a breadth of different products, a breadth of vehicles with which you can use to bring these technologies to market. And because the spectrum of training may start out there over on the left with basic cognitive development that you can do through a web-based, print-based delivery mechanism. You might have some remote learning. We're all getting pretty good at the remote thing these days, but it's usually self-paced. Some of it may be instructor-led, but a lot of it's web-based materials, so on and so forth. And then as you move up the scale to the right, you move on up into maybe some type of a virtual training situation where the student needs to have a PC-based device to do procedure familiarization, that type of thing, on up to blended between virtual and physical. That typically involves some type of a specialized subsystem that requires a compute solution to drive it, on up to what we call physical training, or now you're up into proficiency training. Think of driver training, flight training, that type of thing. We're actually in a very specific simulation device. And then on up into your immersive high fidelity simulations. When you think of some of these high-end full flight training systems, for example, you essentially have the entire airplane on the thinking part of the airplane on a platform that's full motion sensitivity, and you're feeding out the window displays at very high resolutions, very high frame rates, and the demands of that just continue increasing as as trainees become more proficient. The needs for realism increase exponentially as you move up to the right of that scale. NVIDIA brings great products to market in the form of the graphics cards to create those visualizations, to render those images on for you real time, and some fantastic innovations that they're bringing to market. How do you bring that graphics card to bear on your product? Your product may be down in that lower end where you're developing a training situation that might be in a classroom, or maybe the student needs a small PC at home. Being able to partner with an ODM like Dedicated Computing that can give you a form factor that is already developed and designed around that latest GPU technology becomes very important. And then as you move through that spectrum, that form factor changes, and the number of GPUs you need to support changes. And naturally, the amount of power you're providing to the GPUs, how you're cooling it, so that to ensure that you're getting the life cycle out of that card that you paid for. You want to be able to take advantage of it throughout its life cycle, and not put it into a system that might constrict it or prevent it from operating optimally. Working with an ODM like Dedicated Computing, whether we're developing something for an AR, MR, VR application, or a fixed simulator, or even up to those high fidelity full motion systems, the technologies and the packaging in which we place these GPUs really comes down to how well we've designed that system to support that GPU, but also to meet those global regulatory compliance requirements that James alluded to earlier. It's one thing to put a GPU in a PC on your desk at home for gaming. It's another thing as a company to actually put a product out that has that technology in it. You want to make sure that you're doing everything possible to ensure your end user has as safe a product as possible with the technology that you need to accomplish the great things that your solution is bringing to market. Dedicated Computing designs those platforms with that in mind. All the way up to, you can see on the right there, that high-level rack integration. As you get to some of these higher implementations. It's more than an IT closet type of application. You're typically citing these things at the point of simulation due to some of the latency requirements inherent to that market. And when you're selling into US government or military installations, for example, there are some very specific security requirements that actually start with supply chain security, ITAR compliance and TAA compliance that might be necessary to ensure that the products you're putting out, you're delivering your product on, are meeting the latest requirements globally, and dedicated computing can bring that to bear. And as you can see, while we may develop a platform portfolio that has 80% of the solution there, we're very much in a place that we can collaborate with you on that remaining 20% that might be needed for your applications to differentiate your product in the marketplace. And that's where an ODM like dedicated computing becomes an extension of your product development team. The way I like to put it when I talk with customers, it really comes down to, what do you want to do for a living? What would you rather spend your time and resources managing? Would it be building the computer and doing all of that development and engineering, and then managing all of those suppliers, hundreds of items from multiple vendors across the globe, each with different technology timing cadences, different life cycle cadences, different regulatory requirements, different supply chain issues, and so forth? Or are you better off partnering with one partner on one solution? Identify the solution that your product requires, that your product needs to differentiate your solution in the marketplace, and let that ODM work and manage the rest of that infrastructure, that supply chain infrastructure, working to bring fantastic technologies such as NVIDIA GPUs to market. As a dedicated computing, in our role as a strategic ODM partner, really the key there is strategy and partnership. By working as a partner, we collaborate on your product design, and we see ourselves as an extension of your business, that your success is paramount in the relationship of this partnership. And strategically, we can work not only on the technology design integration where we excel, including things such as enhanced environmental testing, but now we can work with you on the strategy around product continuity planning. And so you have, when you launch your product, you know what your 2, 3, 5, 10-year plan is for that product from a technology perspective, because you have a trusted partner that works well and is in sync with folks like NVIDIA and their technology cycles and so forth. And then we can also manage all those other components that just might be one little thing that can stop your production, like a cable, or because a connector suddenly has a constraint in the marketplace or something. Letting an ODM manage that has a team wrapped around managing that type of thing on a component level gives you the breathing room to focus on your product and differentiating your product in the market. I mentioned secure supply chain management and technology. That has become a hot button topic. Knowing your supply chain and knowing the reliability of their supply chain, not just that they're going to make shipments when they say they're going to make shipments and they're going to be on time, but that the components they're using are vetted from any number of perspectives. I mentioned TAA compliance earlier. That trusted supply chain becomes a very important part of your product security plan. And that's where an ODM like dedicated computing can really help out. Not to mention regulatory certifications management, which we've mentioned a couple times here. Getting these platforms to a nationally recognized test lab to undergo safety testing and so forth. You need to have the wherewithal to know that your platform design will pass once it gets to the lab. So you don't spend additional cycles in your product development having to retest to fix several issues or so forth. Having an ODM in this space that's familiar with the technology, that understands how these various component manufacturers play once you put them within a device and begin to undergo that regulatory testing, we can ensure that your product will pass once it gets to the lab. And really what it comes down to is all of that effort and resources that go into managing this subsystem of your solution ends up turning from an entire team that needs to manage it into a single line ordering opportunity. I have one part number that I order from one partner, that the partner isn't just there to sell you devices. He's there to help support your product and support your business going forward. And that includes the ability to provide ongoing services and support for this device. Whether it's global 24/7 technical assistance, access to customer service portals, remote diagnostics, and even patch and image management, dedicated computing can provide that. We also have dedicated computing monitoring options where we can actually, in instances where we have remote access to a device, we can actually monitor it, and through learning, able to get to the point where you can do predictive analysis and manage your ongoing service activities to replace things before they fail, so your customer doesn't see the downtimes and so forth. And that way you don't have to go stand up the entire ecosystem and infrastructure to be able to do all that. You can leverage an ODM like dedicated computing that has that technology, has that capability, has that subject matter expertise to be able to act as that extension of your business, freeing you up to do the great and wonderful things that you set out to do in life.
Great, John. Thank you for that. Appreciate the details. And again, many of you this resonates either from directly to the training simulation market or to other products and services you're looking to do. Again, that's something we're at dedicated computing across multiple markets. We are looking forward to hearing from you. Like to discuss really everything we talked about today. Everything that's affecting us with this change. Your software and hardware leaders, really beyond dedicated to the rest of the ecosystem, dealing with challenges such as COVID and worldwide logistics. And really, one of the most important things is, making sure your products are out there for a long time and that they're are available to be purchased and as well as supported in the field. So this is our contact information. Again, John, myself, the rest of our team love to have those initial conversations with you on how we could engage with you and help you to make your product strategy sound. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.